Stop what you're doing because this just escalated. Friday, Donald Trump stood in front of the world. He was confident. He was celebratory. He said the Strait of Hormuz was open. He said it will never close again. He said a deal with Iran was very close. The world believed him. Oil prices dropped. Markets relaxed. Ships started moving. And then Saturday morning came. Iran closed the strait again. Iranian gunboats opened fire on a merchant vessel trying to cross. India summoned the Iranian ambassador in protest. And Trump's deal, the one he said was very close, started falling apart in real time. This is the story of two countries talking peace while preparing for war. And it affects every single one of you watching this. Let's start from the beginning. On April 8th, Iran and America agreed to a 2-week ceasefire. With days left on that ceasefire, Trump made a series of announcements that shook Tehran to its core. He claimed Iran agreed to stop enriching uranium on its soil. He claimed both countries will jointly dig up enriched uranium from bombed Iranian nuclear sites and hand it to America. He said the Strait of Hormuz was open and will stay open forever. He also said Iran will not receive its own frozen assets held abroad under US sanctions. One announcement after another, bigger and bigger, but Tehran had something different. They had a man telling the world Iran had surrendered, and they were furious. Iran's parliament, Speaker Mohammad Ghalibaf, responded fast. He had led Iran's delegation at the Islamabad talks. He posted on X early Saturday morning. His message was short, blunt, and unmistakable. With these lies, they did not win the war, and they certainly will not get anywhere in negotiations either. That was the official response, but it did not stop there. By Saturday noon, the IRGC released their own statement. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Iran's most powerful military force, announced that the Strait of Hormuz was once again under, and these are the exact words, strict management and control of the armed forces. The reason they gave was continued acts of piracy and maritime theft by the United States and the US naval blockade on Iran's port. The strait, Trump said, would never closed within hours of his announcement. But here is where this story becomes extraordinary. The chaos was not just between Washington and Tehran. It was inside Iran itself. Trump's announcements landed like a grenade inside the Iranian establishment. Hardcore regime supporters, people who have backed this government for decades, were publicly losing their minds. Ayatollah Zagami, a former state television chief, posted on X, "Is there no Muslim out there to talk to the people about what is happening? That is not an opposition voice. That is someone inside the system, terrified of what he was hearing." The headline mayor of Tehran went further. He warned, "Do not give the enemy in negotiations what it failed to achieve on the battlefield." And then state television turned on its own foreign minister live on air. Why? Because Foreign Minister Agachi posted a tweet saying the Strait of Hormuz was open during the ceasefire period. One host demanded he clarify himself. Another pointed out something stunning. The tweet was written in English, and since 90 million Iranians have no access to social media because their own government shut it down, the tweet was not for the Iranian people. It was for the outside world. Think about it. The foreign minister of Iran was communicating with the world in English while his own citizen sat in digital darkness. Forget the politicians for a moment. Listen to the people. On local Iranian messaging apps, ordinary citizens said exactly what was on their minds. One person wrote, "We took to the streets every night with clear demands, but we shook hands with the killer of our supreme leader and handed our strait to the Zionists." Another wrote, "After all these years of sanctions and war and cost imposed on the people, if you are to give up the uranium and the strait, then why did you play with the people's livelihoods and the blood of the martyrs for so long?" Read that again slowly. These are not protesters against the regime. These are believers, people who sacrificed, people who lost jobs, lost income, lost loved ones, and now they feel like it was all for nothing. That specific kind of betrayal, the betrayal of true believers, is the most dangerous political force on earth, and it is building inside Iran right now. And now we move to the second part of this story, because everything we just told you, all of that political chaos was just a setup. What happened next made it worse, much worse. On Saturday morning, Iran officially closed the Strait of Hormuz again. The Iranian military announced that the control of the waterway had, and quote, returned to its previous state. Ships that had begun crossing turned back. By 10:30 in the morning, at least 8 oil and gas tankers had made it through, but at least as many turned back. The situation was too unclear, too dangerous, too unpredictable. And then Iranian gunboats opened fire on a merchant vessel attempting to cross. The shots did not go unanswered. India, one of the countries Iran had labeled friendly, summoned the Iranian ambassador. The Indian Ministry of External Affairs released a formal statement. Secretary Vikram Misri conveyed India's deep concern over what they called a shooting incident involving 2 Indian-flagged merchant vessels. 2 ships flying the Indian flag fired upon. India had been one of the nations Iran allowed to pass through the straits. They were on the friendly list, and Iran fired on their ships anyway. New Delhi urged Iran to resume facilitating India-bound ships at the earliest possible opportunity. The Iranian ambassador undertook to convey these concerns to Tehran, but the damage was already done. A country Iran called a friend is now formally protesting at the diplomatic level. Let us be very clear about what is at stake here. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a Middle East problem. 20% of globally traded oil passes through it every single day. When it is closed, the entire world feels it. Petrol prices rise, shipping costs rise, the price of everything transported by sea rises. On Friday, when Trump announced the strait was open, oil prices dropped. Markets celebrated. Then Iran closed it again. The Iranian rial spiked from 1.46 million to 1.5 million against the US dollar in hours. Maritime shipping specialist John Paul Rodriguez at Texas A&M University was watching it in real time. He said ships have been attempting transit since the announcement, but many were heading back because the situation was completely unclear. His words, there is contradictory information being issued by all parties. Ships worth hundreds of millions of dollars sitting at the mouth of the strait. Captains making life or death decisions with no reliable information because the two most powerful actors in this conflict cannot agree on what is the reality. Trump was on Air Force One when reporters asked him about the ceasefire. His response was vintage Trump, direct, blunt, and loaded with consequence. Maybe I won't extend it, he said. So you'll have a blockade, and unfortunately, we will have to start dropping bombs again. Asked if a deal will happen in the short time frame remaining, he said, I think it's going to happen, but Iran says no date has even been agreed for the next round of talks. Iran accuses the US of betraying diplomacy in every negotiation. Two sides, two completely different versions of reality. One straight and the whole world caught in the middle. One correspondent reporting from Tehran put it perfectly. Uncertainty is the name of the game. Iran is not just asking for a ceasefire. Iran wants a comprehensive end of the war across the entire region. Security assurances, sanctions relief, the unfreezing of frozen assets, regional relations normalized, and on top of all that, the nuclear desire. Iran's entire stockpile of highly enriched uranium. That is what is sitting on the negotiating table. And Trump is saying, hand it all over or we resume bombing. Iran is saying, compensate us for the $270 billion in damages first. Both sides are drawing lines in the sand, while ordinary Iranians, 90 million of them, offline, have no idea what is being decided in their name. While armed convoys with men and children manning heavy machine guns roll through the streets of Tehran, while Indian ships get fired upon in international waters, while all markets swing violently with every tweet and every statement. This is not a negotiation moving towards peace. This is a negotiation teetering on the edge of collapse. Trump said the strait was open forever. Iran closed it the next morning. Trump said a deal was very close. Iran said no date has been agreed. Trump said no bombs for now. Iran said the blockade is piracy. And somewhere in the middle of all this, ordinary people on both sides are paying the price. Iranian families with no jobs, no internet, no answers. Sailors on merchant vessels not knowing if they will be fired upon. Oil markets that move the cost of living for billions of people around the world. The story is moving faster than any news cycle can keep up with. The next 72 hours will tell us whether this becomes a deal or a disaster, and we'll be right here covering every single development. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Trump's deal is real, or is this falling apart? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you're not subscribed yet, do it right now. Hit the bell and share this with someone who needs to understand what is really happening in the world, because this is not just a Middle East story. This is your story. It affects your wealth, it affects your food and your economy. Stay with me, because this story is far from being over.